The challenge right now with the situation we're going through with COVID is that the rest of the world has squeezed individuals out of where they used to be into a place where they're unfamiliar. So if you were at work and you've just been given a 189 and been retrenched, you're in an unfamiliar environment and territory. If you are a singer and you are consistently going out singing in different bars and pubs and whatever the case may be, you're stuck at home, you're in an unfamiliar situation. If you're a football player and you used to be playing every Saturday and you're stuck at home, you're in an unfamiliar situation. So this COVID has put everybody in unfamiliar and and situations that they've not been trained for or ready for. But it's also a time to start really utilizing that to say to yourself, okay, what is the direction that I need to be going in?
Yeah.
And how do I need to get it? Once you know the how will come. That's the consequence of the what. But as long as you keep ignoring that voice,
you'll be okay.
It gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder.
Yeah. So I have my sort of gets a two-part question. Firstly, we've had, I think, speaking on behalf of the youth and young people in general, there's been a sort of like a friction between the older generation and us as young people in terms of where we feel like they're not hearing us enough, or not giving an opportunity for us to sit at the table. And then you also have the older generation saying, well, you young people are lazy, or millennials, or you want to cell phones, or whatever the case is. What is your take on that? Are we lazy, or are we just different? What is it?
So this challenge has been going on for generation after generation after generation. So the current baby boomer, who is probably now in his 50s plus, 50s, I think it's 57 plus, had that issue with his parents, right? And every one of them, Gen X all the way through to, will always have that. So
just hold on.
The conflict.
Boomy. Okay.
The conflict between generational gaps has just been one of those for a while. However, there are a couple of things that right now are more significant than they were before in the past.
Yeah.
And that's the need for evolution. And by evolution, I mean the need for change rapidly.
Yeah.
And change rapidly. Back in the day, if you looked at 10-year gaps from the 1900s, technological advancements, or any other advancements for that matter, really happened very slowly. You really didn't have the kind of quantum leaps in advancements that you have today. Today, the phone you had last year is already out of date.
Yeah.
Right? With new technologies and new things. And the reason why it's imperative for the older generation to appreciate that is because they're not necessarily keeping up with the evolution of time. And if you don't keep up with the evolution of time, you get left behind. And that's one of the critical issues going on right now with anybody from the baby boomers and generations. If you're not understanding what is going on right now, then you're getting left behind.
Yeah.
The second thing where the youth play a very critical role is forecasting the future, right? So forecasting the future, sorry, and I'm doing this now because I don't know what's wrong with my iPad, right? My iPad for some reason is just charging very slowly. I'm going backwards and forwards. Sorry, so let me get it to a point where you can edit. Forecasting the future is imperative for trying to understand the needs and wants of what's going to be coming. And people of the older generation cannot necessarily do that. You have to have that conversation with the younger generation. So the need for the younger generation to sit on the same platforms is becoming more and more critical going into the future. And whether the older generation like it or not, they're just going to have to, understand that. Where the younger generation need to understand that time hasn't changed this concept, is that experience comes with time.
Yes.
Right? 10 years experience only happens after 10 years.
That's true.
Can't compress 10 years experience to 1 year,
That's
right?
true.
So you can get a lot of knowledge of 10 years within 1 year, but the experience, you need the 10 years. So what younger people need to be appreciating is that the older people who have actually utilized time and gained experience from it are bound to have quite a bit of information. So that relationship between the younger people and their ability to have foresight, their ability to be savvy in terms of what's going on now, and older people in terms of their experience should start coming together.
No, definitely.
And creating the kind of future that we'll be moving into in times to come. So the separation can't continue. It's not going to work. It's not going to be viable. It doesn't make sense. And it's going to be detrimental in the end. If we need to advance, particularly as a continent, and particularly as a country, and more importantly than that, within that sphere, particularly as a race, we are way, way behind what's going on. And we need to start moving in quantums rather than moving in the time kind of lag that we've been doing over this, over these few decades.
So what do you think the future looks like?
The question.
Young
people are not lazy.
Thank you. We are not lazy people. We're just, a little different, but not lazy. So what do you think the future of, I like asking this question. This is my final question to all my guests. What does the future of Africa look like, in your opinion?
Well, the future of Africa is going to be one that I perceive to be exciting, because it is the time that they are going to have to move in quantums. So we are so far behind the fourth revolution. We're so far behind the fifth revolution. We're going to have to move in quantums to catch up. So that's the one exciting bit. The second exciting bit, I think, is that the connectedness of Africa. I think Africa is going to require itself to break the boundaries of being defining each other from a nationality point of view. Look at ourselves as a continent and understand how we can, we can move forward in a connected manner. Now, I'm not talking about EU and economic strategies. I'm talking about philosophies. I'm talking about the way behaviors. I'm talking about just the general constructs that we have towards each other in terms of moving forward. And I think COVID has actually has played a critical role in doing that. If we open our borders tomorrow, right, and COVID comes in from Zimbabwe or comes in from Namibia or comes in from wherever of these bordering countries, it affects us.
Yeah.
So our conversations with them have to be broader than just economic trade. It has to do with our connectedness with each other. So I think that's going to be an exciting bit as well. And then I think finally, the ability for us to recognize the role that we play in a global environment, I think is going to be significantly more advanced, because we're advancing our ability to think with each other, because we're advancing our ability to connect with each other. It's going to put us in a completely different trajectory in terms of how we see our space in the global environment. So I think it has positives. And I think the young people are going to play a fundamentally critical role in moving us along those paradigms, in jumping our thinking, in jumping our connectedness, and in jumping our playing in the global environment. It is going to be yourselves that in the next 10 years completely reshape what Africa has been and now starts producing what Africa can be.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm excited, I really am excited. You have one of the exciting projects in Africa especially is I don't know if you know the African Leadership Academy. But yeah, the African Leadership Academy, the African Leadership University, those sort of institutions that are bringing, I think, Africa together in our thinking and our philosophy, like you said, because it is young people who are coming from all parts of Africa, and bringing their minds and bringing their minds together and seeing how can we move our continent forward. So yeah, I think we just need to get ourselves to that point where we embrace each other, because there's so much to learn from each other as a continent.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. They play a critical role.
Yeah.
They do. And they have been playing a critical role for a long time.
Yeah.
But the biggest role that will be played are examples that you're setting. This that you're doing now is a classical example that's going to be a multiplier effect in terms of the kind of impact that it can have.
Mm-hmm.
Institutions and academies and formalized structures have a significant role to play. But the informal sector, and I use that terminology not to describe the economy, but I'm talking about it to describe not things that are structural and institutional.
Yes.
Like yourself, in terms of creating these kind of opportunities, these YouTube opportunities, these conversational opportunities, are going to play a significant role in that process. So what you're doing is fantastic. Okay. You are actually enlightening and enhancing these constructs of leadership. You're putting them on platforms where people can view them. And it is a noble thing that you do, because it plays in its whole different cogs of the jigsaw puzzle a significant role in contributing to the broader whole of what we're trying to achieve. So well done to you.
Well thank you for doing. Thank you. And this concludes our chat. So cheers virtually.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I had to drink at a speed that I didn't finish it before the interview.
Me too. I had to be very disciplined.
No, but thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the chat. It was fantastic.
No, thank you. It's always such a great chat with you, because I'm like, I learned so much. You are now part of my conversations. I'm like having conversations with my best friend. I'm like, I was talking to Vic, and he said, I was like, who is this person? So now I'm glad to introduce the world. This is Vikela.
Thank you very much.